So yeah, let's talk about Nvidia then. So we talked about them having a market cap. What they pass? Google?
They passed Amazon one day, and then 2 days later they passed Google.
So we talked about it. Hit the like button and share, ladies and gentlemen. You know, when XRP a few years ago was going crazy, and I remember the CEO of Ripple had a net worth. He was like the 7th richest person in the world, and they, you know, there's an old saying that when things start to not make sense anymore, then that's when they start to fall apart. And then shortly after that, then the company, the coin has never reached that high ever since. So Nvidia, yeah, it's a great company, but I mean, when a chip company that the vast majority of people never even heard about 18 months ago has a market cap larger than Amazon and Google, all right, at a certain point in time, it starts to not make sense, right? So Nvidia, that doesn't make sense. It's not a more powerful.
Are you predicting the death of Nvidia?
No, it's not.
Let's clip it up. No, we not do that.
It's not the death of Nvidia, but it just doesn't. It doesn't make sense, right? Nvidia is not the same as Google. It's not the same as Amazon. So is it overpriced, and will a correction come?
So that's the interesting part, right? Is it as important? Well, if you take those companies,
please say it.
If you take those companies and you look what their forward initiative is, it's all in artificial intelligence, right? Like that is the thing. Google's trying to figure out. They just said that we're doing away with Bard. Gemini is the new thing. We already know what Microsoft has done with OpenAI. Apple is starting to tease something in their June call. They're going to announce whatever their AI initiative is. You have the top 7 that are pretty much relying on this company to deliver its chips so that it can produce that high level efficiency and that high level of innovation. And so they kind of need them, right? You kind of got to knock on their door if you want to move forward. So if you're one of those companies, it don't even matter if you're better or not. They need you until there's a competitor that comes through and says, all right, we have something that can perform at a similar, if not more efficient way. And the price point makes more sense. It's kind of like this Vision Pro versus the Oculus, right? Like there's a vast difference.
It's a night and day difference.
It's a vast difference in pricing, right? But there's also going to be a vast difference in the overall function and quality of it and the expansion of it. And so I don't know if it has to be better. I just think as long as they rely on them, they're going to be needed. And for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's very clear that they're the company that's going to lead it. And they're going to be the company that these companies call on, whether it be from Apple to Amazon to Google to Microsoft. OpenAI is inside there. We're going to come and sit Meta as well. They already told you that how many billions that they're spending. That's just what they're putting on. Who knows how much more they're going to spend? As long as they're needed, I can see them passing them. And it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if they were to lead in the next 18 months as far as market cap.
Nvidia is more important than Amazon. I love Amazon dearly. Profit margins are thinner though. Let's look at some of the numbers. 44 billion revenue for Nvidia. Revenue is up 205% quarter over quarter. Operating margin is 45%. Profit margin is 16%. All of the major companies on earth are relying on them. And the sector that matters the most to the United States of America, they have by the huevos. What are we talking about? Like, I wish Google would have innovated a lot. Shout out to everyone at Google corporate because I need y'all, right? Listen, I wish they would have innovated faster. I think Andy has done a great job at Amazon. But if we look at where you're skating to where the puck will be, going back to that Gretzky quote, everyone in tech for the last 3 or 4 years, when you had the ZERP initiative, people weren't applying as much pressure in terms of innovation as they should. And then Nvidia came and took their lunch. 3.5 years ago, AMD was at 11. Shout out to everyone in Red Panda who got in at the time. It's up 15x now. You put $1,000 in Nvidia 4 years ago, you could have 100 grand now. Listen, the ones that move the market are going to reign supreme, and you usually have one player that is dominant per sector. Invest in those, and if you would have did that, you would have made a lot of money. The EBITDA margin is 49.39%. The current ratio is 3.5. This is a blockbuster company. This is like our kids' generation version of Microsoft or Apple.
But at some point,
it has to pull back,
right? Like,
it's going to pull back.
It's going to pull. So it's not a situation
maybe
where
10 to 15%, but that'd be a good buying point.
10 to 15%. That would be a heavy drop, right? But that doesn't mean that we don't believe in the company long term. a correction sometimes is needed, right? We always talk about having a reset when companies have to go through this. When we start seeing it, we start seeing layoffs.
Yeah.
We start seeing, we'll talk about it a little bit later, we start seeing execs and CEOs selling shares, right? We start to see those signs. That usually means there's a pullback coming. That's not happening with Nvidia. We've seen it happen with Amazon.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen with Meta. It hasn't happened with Nvidia yet. There's a couple of things that could happen. We start to see when companies are taking in large sums of money, do they start to offer a dividend? Do they have a split?
A split would be good.
We're starting to get into we're starting to get into that range where if it becomes a $1,000 stock, we saw that happen with Amazon, right? They never split. They got up to 3,400. This becomes something that's not as attainable to jump. Now we split 1 to 5. Nvidia is treading in that direction. Will they split? We'll see.
The difference between all of those businesses and entities that we named,
yeah.
Like how many boxes of wet wipes do you need to order for yourself? You don't need man wipes like 3 times a month. Like they are actually probably one of the most important parts to the digital infrastructure of the country and the world.
Yeah.
So while Google is really important, I think they stretch themselves too thin with other products. Nvidia is really focused in on a couple sectors and a couple clients that matter the most to them, and that's why I think they're doing so well.
Yeah, they're all important. Like I said, look, when we talk about Amazon, yes, from an e-commerce point of view, but also from an AWS cloud point of view, they're still a leader, right? We talked about them going into healthcare. That adds another stem to the umbrella. We talked about them going to automotives, which could be extremely disruptive for anybody in that space. Carvana, like all these companies that were relying on, we have a certain. If
Amazon deadlift shrimp and Nvidia Carmelo or what? Let's get to
don't do it. Deadlift, Deadlift, first of all, Deadlift was a great player.
Carl, you're a wild boy.
No, he's wild for that.
You're a wild piece of work.
He's wild for that. Shout out to Melo. Deadlift, it's not compared. We're not gonna use Deadlift. We gotta get somebody better than Deadlift. Don't do that.
Jokic.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's a good argument. So if we take those two companies, right, Melo would be. But here's the reality. We had this argument before. This was a sports argument. When it comes down to the history of Denver, there's only going to be one number 15 that gets retired. So, yeah, I mean, in that sense, maybe you're right.
Nvidia is almost too big to fail at this point.
It's feeling that way.
Yeah,
but I think that goes to Shadi's apprehension of if it's too big to fail.
It wasn't too big to call it. Too big to fail when I told y'all to get it in the 22, top of 23. You know, it's all about timing. Like something goes up 4 or 5x, you can't wait to make your primary position in then.
Yeah.
Wait for a pullback and you'll be good.
So we'll see. Wednesday we'll see. And we won't even have to have the argument. We'll see very clearly. They report after market on Wednesday. And so I'll be interested. I'll be sitting waiting to see what comes back. I'll be looking forward to the future guidance because we already heard from Meta the amount of money they're spending. I'll be interested to see some of their other partners and what they'll be spending. I'm sure it's in the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. So more revenue. I think there's an estimate where their EPS, the difference in EPS of what's expected to what the actual might be a difference of $9 to $10, which would be that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. If you beat it by 3 cents, great. Beating it by $9 to $10 is out of this world, and they've done it already. So we'll see.